sacred code is supernatural and cosmic. It bridges starseed origins, galactic contact, and remembrance. DNA activation, soul memory, psychic development, intuition, timeline shifting, and manifestation. Ancient wisdom, modern consciousness, and real world embodiment. It's where the supernatural becomes natural again. It's not fantasy, not an escape, but as a powerful tool to be used, as a powerful truth to be understood. The reason you are called here is not because you're here to follow. You're here to remember who you are. Your soul carries the code. This space simply helps you unlock them safely, clearly, and powerfully. You're not broken, and you're not late. You're not imagining it. You're remembering. Welcome to the Sacred Code.
Hi, Mary.
How's it going?
Oh boy, it's going phenomenal. I'm still on a high from our weekend.
It was a very, very spiritual weekend with a lot of different kinds of healing, you know, all different modalities and different forms and unity. It was an amazing weekend.
Thank you. I thought so too. I'm just, like I said, physically tired because I got there Wednesday and actually got home, after 5 yesterday. So, it's the setting up and the taking down and all of that. So physically I'm tired, but spiritually I'm just flying high. I love it.
Wow. No, you and Beth, RJ, and Barry did just an amazing job, especially with the atmosphere that you created. And, it really got me excited about today's guest. And I have I have a short bio, so I'm not very good at reading the bios, but I'm going to try. But it doesn't come close to describing who this person is because it's just short. So Jen Kruze is a part of the She Squatchers and a very recognized female voice in cryptid research today. She blends her indigenous wisdom, her psychic intuition, remote viewing, and years of field investigation to explore the mysteries of Bigfoot, consciousness, and the unseen world. She tells captivating stories and has such a unique approach to the paranormal, to the cryptid, that has inspired audiences across the country and around the world. So welcome, Jen Kruze.
Ooh.
Hi,
Jen.
Beautiful.
How are you?
I'm
Fabulous.
great. Yeah, Mary and I had a fantastic weekend. I wish you could have been there with us.
It's being kind of slow, I think. Am I lagging here on my connection? Am I lagging?
Oh, you might
No,
be.
you're not.
Are you there?
Can you hear us?
This is so odd.
I can hear everybody.
Yeah, what about everybody else?
Okay. You can hear me?
I can hear you. Uh-oh.
Okay. Hi.
Jen? Hi.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hi.
Can you hear us now?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think she's lagging.
I was just trying to post a picture that I was on here. And it is a little bit here. I don't know. Maybe I should try to hook up to my other. I'll try my other line here. Let's see here. Mobile hub.
So while she's doing that, we asked Jen on partly is for me, I'm not going to lie, it's a selfish reason. I'm very intrigued about the shamanic journey and the experiences that somebody goes through during that period, and really intrigued about what the difference is between the spiritual awakening and the shamanic journey. And the last time we had her on here, the way she talked was just beautiful. And I couldn't think of anybody better to, break it down and explain it and tell some of her stories.
Right. I agree. I just hope that she unfreezes. Now, is she frozen to you as well?
She looks like it.
Jen? So everybody out there, can you guys, is it different for you? Is Jen frozen? Are we frozen?
It looks
Can
like
anybody hear us?
she's frozen. So I'm gonna pop this out real quick. I'm gonna kind of tell you like the background of what started me on just thinking about this in general. And it was probably about a month and a half ago. And I probably told you about it a little bit, Deb, but I was out and I was meditating, and all of a sudden I felt like this thud on the porch. And mind you, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. So at first that kind of freaks me out because I'm separated from my house. And the first thing that popped in my head was I was told that they were walkers. And I was like, okay, so what's the walkers? That doesn't make any sense to me. And they said, well, they're kind of like skinwalkers, but it's not the same. And I totally understood that it was more Native American than anything else. And when I reached out to Jen to see if she had even heard, like, is this an actual term? And she talked about, the shamanic journey, and that, we could call them just about anything else, but walkers are sort of like the ones that come in when it's time for you to walk that journey. So whether it's, transition or transmutation is what they say in my ear, right? They walk with us. And, another interesting side to that is here's Jen. Let's see if she's here. There she is.
Is this better?
Yes.
Yes. Better? Okay.
You're not frozen now. Yay.
Awesome. Well, I moved over to my own Wi-Fi from my phone instead of the Wi-Fi from the house. So
okay.
Sounds like me. Sounds like what I do.
Yes.
So I was just telling him about my experience with the walkers and how you helped me with that understanding. And that's one of the reasons that led to this show about, the shamanic journey and the understanding, the sacred understanding of it, I guess, would be the right word for it.
And this is awful because I will tell people this over and over again. When I do that kind of work, I never remember what I said because it's not for me. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, I remember talking about the walkers and now it's like completely gone. So if you can remind me, it'll come back, but I can't possibly keep all the information that comes through all the time. And I know that you can relate to that. Because I think I can't even watch a movie and keep that in my brain. And I was worried that something was wrong with my memory or something. I actually went to the doctor and they're like, no, you're holding too much. It's your brain is deciding what you need to keep and what you don't. And it's filing movies as not important. Because I'm like, I know I saw that movie. I was excited to see that movie. So yeah.
I totally get you.
Do you? Okay, good.
Oh, absolutely. And I think not only are you super busy and have so many different things going on, but I think it's part of the evolution that we're going through as well, that we're not as into the 3D physical aspect of everything. So, we're holding soul memory and spirit messages and all of that at the same time.
Yes. And it's just, I have so many people that just come talk with me and there's so much that comes through all the time. And it just, it's so much all the time.
I get it. So Mary, do you want to remind her a little bit?
Remind me what I said and it'll be right back.
Well, if that was the experience when the walkers came on my porch, and they had told me that they were similar to skinwalkers, that they were interdimensional, and you had said that they're there to walk through that shamanic journey, that it's time for me to journey, and that's the path I'm going to be walking, and they're going to walk that with me. And so now you kind of got the bug. I've got the bug.
Yeah. That's where it was. Yep, got it. Yep. So I think it's interesting the beings that come through to walk with us and to encourage us over time. And so many times other people are like, well, what is their name? What do they look like? And I've never been into that. Like I was like, they don't really have an ego like that to need you to know them by name. That's a very human thing. And I think even the highest level guides, they are maybe people that we would have, they maybe were beings or entities that we would have recognized. And even then, they don't really want to say that's who they are, because it would really take away from the message they're bringing. I don't know if you've experienced that, but when I have encountered beings who I recognize and would naturally be in awe of, they weren't so serious. They were actually more like, hey buddy, how you doing? And it was so different than what I would expect from them. But from the most part, I know that we can trust the beings that come through to guide us, especially when we're holding our frequency high. People talk about negative entities coming in and trying to interfere with us. And I was just like, I don't even worry about that anymore, because if you raise your frequency high enough, they're not even able to contact you. So if you encounter something on a negative fashion, all you have to do is raise your frequency up, and it's like hanging up the phone. So I hope that makes sense. But definitely, we're on a journey. We're all on this journey, right? And we need to go forward. And I remember that the walkers were playing a big part with the event coming up, and helping with that. So yeah, I remembered that part. So they were playing a big part of that, and helping us journey through that process of however that looks like. Because even if we're psychic and we have knowings of what's to come, I don't think we ever truly know exactly how it's going to play out. And I don't think we're meant to know that either. So, people are always asking for specifics, and I'm like, I just trust that it's going to be exactly the way it's supposed to be. And that's how it is. And if something happens, like I compare it to a wedding day, like when in your wedding day, something that you've planned really specifically, you want it to go just like this. And then one thing happens and you're like, oh no, it's all going to be ruined, because it's not going to be perfect. And no, it's exactly the way it's supposed to be. And we have to trust that, and don't allow one little hiccup to make us think it's all in the trash, because that's not how that goes. Sometimes the hiccup is exactly the way it's supposed to be. For instance, at going to a conference and speaking at a conference, what if some other speakers don't show up? All of a sudden, they're just not there. Who's going to fill those spots? And I think that that's something that's meant to happen, that the other speakers who are already there have more to say and more to do that needed to come through. And so you just go with that natural flow, and it just is the way it's supposed to be. And so I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Yes. You just have to have that trust. That trust has to be there. And it doesn't come overnight. I wasn't a trusting girl before. I questioned everything. I was like, who are you? What do you want? I don't know if I want this. I didn't want this. This is how I was born, and I resisted it for most of my life. I was like, no. And then there's people out there that are wishing for it. And I'm like, you don't know what you're asking for. Right?
So true, Jen.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Very
absolutely.
True. Yeah. There's a lot more
good
to it.
And yeah. there's good and there's pros and cons to it. Yes, I'm
Mhm.
glad that I have this now, but there are times when it's difficult. When you know things you don't want to know. Like, I didn't want to know that. That makes it more difficult. And then you're like, well, should I be happy that I know it or not? And so it's not always roses and peaches. It's just the way that it is. But
Yeah.
I think along the process, I'm definitely, I've definitely changed the way I view people. And rather than feeling disappointed when I see the things that aren't necessarily good, I really look for the good things in them, in every single person. And I can see that there, even if they can't see it themselves. I can see it there waiting to come forward, to come through. And so I just kind of like push the negative aside, and I dig for that good thing, and I try to encourage that to come forward faster. And I've had to just develop the idea or the perception of, I'm thankful that I'm not at that level anymore, that I'm not stuck there, because it's literally like a sticky trap. Once you're in the crap, it's hard to get out of the crap, because you're thinking about it, you're surrounded by it, you're covered in it, and it just creates more of that in your life. So once you're free of that and you're seeing that in other people, you just have to remember that's not a pleasant place to be. They're not having a good time. They might think they're having a good time, but they're really, you have the wisdom of being in that position from the past, and you can see now that's not really a good time. They're suffering on the inside. These people are walking around hurting themselves, and they don't even know they're doing it. They don't even know they're doing it. And I have memories of doing that to myself. When I was really lost. I come a long way, climbed up out of that place that I was at. And I'll tell you one thing that I remember doing to myself. And it's hard for me to even fathom that I did it. But I was sitting, I think it was like 1998. And I was sitting at my computer, and I had a dial-up internet connection. It was brand new. And I used to smoke cigarettes, and I was sitting at my desk smoking cigarettes in my home office. And I coughed and coughed and coughed. And I thought I should probably quit smoking. And I was like, I don't want to quit smoking. I love smoking. And then I turned my cigarette around and I put it to my eyeball. Thankfully, I had a contact lens in.
Wow.
But I remember seeing it coming towards my eyeball, and I did that to myself. What in the world? I didn't consciously think, I'm going to do this. Right? But people are hurting themselves all the time, and they don't even realize they're doing it. And
Right.
it's not always going to be that clear. That was very clear. That was very clear. Wow.
It wouldn't have been very clear if you had burned your eyeball.
Right. Thankfully, I had a contact lens in. Right?
Ooh.
Thankfully, I had a contact lens in. But so, when I started to really just stand back and observe people without getting involved, it was just really being an observer, and for the purpose of learning from them. By observing them, I was learning from them, and I was seeing people's relationships and how they would interact with each other when they were in a good place and when they weren't in a good place. And what I've noticed, and it's really so obvious, really, the more people are hurt when their relationship is breaking down, the more hurt they are, the more they loved that person. Right? Because they wouldn't, if they didn't care, they just wouldn't care. Right? But when I see people being so angry and so hurt, I'm like, wow, you really cared about that person to have hurt you this bad. Right? And then you see both of them going at each other like that. And you're like, if you could just put down that anger and see that you're both, this is love, covered
Mhm.
up by your hurt right now, you know? And I mean, if more people could see that, they could work it out, right? They could have something really good. Yeah. But again, people are hurting themselves all the time and they don't even realize that they're doing it.
Mhm.
Here's another instance. You know, people who are like, you're cheating on me. You're cheating on me. I think you're cheating on me. And they're just convinced that their partner's cheating on them. But really, they're the ones who are doing it. Right? They're telling on themselves.
Yep.
And people tell on
Typically, that
themselves all
is
the
the
time.
truth.
Yeah.
It is the truth.
Yeah.
No?
And so I always say people will tell you exactly who they are or what they're doing. You just have to sit back and listen, you know. And again, it comes from a place of non-judgment. I don't do the judgment thing anymore. I learned very quickly. Well, maybe it wasn't very quickly. I don't know. But I learned over time that as we judge others, we hold ourselves accountable to that level of judgment. So, if I judge somebody for what they're doing, I'm holding myself accountable at that same level of judgment inside without realizing that people that I do that to. I know that that's how that works now. But
Mhm.
I didn't know that before. But it's true for everybody. You know, if you're looking at somebody and you're going, oh, they're just awful. That's just awful. You're holding yourself accountable at that level on the inside. You know, what people call karma. You know, karma itself is in every culture. It's not called karma in every culture, but it's still there. You know,
Mhm.
the natives from my tribe call it the sacred hoop or the sacred circle. Everything moves in the circle, growing and getting bigger, and then it comes back to you, and it always moves in a circle. And it's not necessarily good and it's not necessarily bad. It's whatever you're sending out is coming back.
Right.
It's both good and bad. So you just make
Mhm.
sure you're sending out the good more than you're sending out the bad, because
Right.
it's all coming back. And it may not come back to you the way you think it should, or from the person you think should be giving it back to you, but it does come back. And we need to expect that that's true.
Mhm.
And I just wrote something to somebody the other day, and she was talking about this type of thing, and I said, you know, here's the deal. Whatever we send out is growing and coming back to us in the circle. It's coming back. And I know that you're a good person, and I know you're sending good things out. I know that your heart is good, but you're sending out expectations of more shit coming back like it had in the past. And that is also something that you're sending into your circle. And so don't be surprised if that comes back, because you're sending that expectation into your circle. You need to get conscious control of that. Know that that was the past and this is the now. And you need to expect that the good things that you've been sending out all this time are still moving in your circle, and they're still growing, and they're still going to be coming back. And expect that so that you're ready to catch that ball. Because if you're not looking the right way and somebody's throwing that ball to you, you're not even going to realize they threw it to you, much less catch it. Or
So
no,
true.
right?
So true.
Right?
So Jen, do you think that that circle, when things are put out and come back, that is also not only on an individual basis, but like what's going on in the country, in the world right now? You get so many people thinking one way, collective consciousness is what I like to call it, that's going to create either negative or positive or whatever you're putting out there.
Mm. That's very true. And here's the thing. I don't watch the news ever. I mean, I might turn it on to see what the weather's looking like, but I don't subscribe to whatever their programming is that they want us to create, because that's what the news is. I don't subscribe to that. I'm sorry, I just don't. People are like, you have to know what's happening in the world. I really don't. You
So
know,
take that "I'm sorry" right out of there.
I really don't.
No, that's
But
I think that's norm for spiritual people. Really,
Mhm.
I mean, if you're really, really walking the path, can you incorporate that too?
Well, here's the thing. I work with a lot of people one-on-one in my office, and they talk to me about whatever's on their heart. And a lot of them, they're watching the news, they're telling me what they're seeing. And you know what's bizarre? Over the years, I've noticed that their perception of what's happening is different
Mhm.
from each other. Because I'll hear the same scenario from one person to the next person, and how they perceived it is different. It's different. And so you have to wonder, what's really going on. And I don't wonder about it too hard to go look, but I see how differently they perceive it. And, that just goes to show that everyone perceives reality in their own manner.
Mhm.
And whatever stuff that we keep inside of ourselves, the negativity, the thoughts, the emotions, whatever we didn't express. All the times I thought, I can't cry right now in front of these people. I'll just do it later. And I didn't. And that was kept inside of myself. And that means a portion of myself has continued to stay in that distress, in that feeling. That portion of myself is kept in that place until I release that. And you think about all the times that we've done that in our lives and how much of ourselves becomes filled with that. All of that stuff affects our perception of reality.
Mhm.
All of it does. And so you could have a person standing right next to two people next to each other, and one could be living in what they perceive to be torturous hell, and the other one is living in just a beautiful experience. And they can be walking together in the mall and not even realize how differently they see the world from each other, how much their perception of reality is completely different from each other. And when I started to see that in people, it really made me sad. I wanted to help them. I wanted to shake them and wake them up. Like, that's not what's happening here. That's not what happened. That's not it. But they, for the most part, unless they're open, unless their awareness is open
Mhm.
to something different, they're not going to accept it. And so you have to, I thought a long time about how do you make their awareness open so that they're willing to see something different. One of the ways is through creating a question, asking them a question, and then another question, and all the questions lead them to answering the question that you want them to realize. But they've answered it themselves, so they don't question it. Or to create another question, like, oh, this was really fun. My native elder used to tell me traditional stories, right? And he would tell the story, and you can read the stories online all you want, and most of the time they don't make sense. And the reason why they don't make a lot of sense is because they're not supposed to. At the end, when you're going, what? That's when your native elder is supposed to tell you the moral of the story and how it applies to you. And because you're going, what? And your awareness is open because you don't understand what just happened here. You're not really sure what that meant. And then they say, oh, well, this is, I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you one. And so one of the stories he told me was, I'll tell it the way he told it to me. So he said, when I was a little boy, I was with my grandparents a lot. And, because I was so little, I had to be with my grandmother because I wasn't big enough to be with my grandfather. My grandfather was outside working in the garden, working in the yard. And he really wanted to be with grandfather. But he was in the house with grandma doing woman things because he was too little and he really wanted to be a big boy. So one day his grandma said, why don't you go outside and help your grandfather? And he was like, really? He was so excited because that meant he was getting to be a bigger boy. So he goes running out the door. He's, grandfather, grandma said, I should come and help you today. And he's looking so proud. And the grandfather looks at him like, really? And he looks him up one side and down the other like, He looks back at the doorway and his wife's standing there and she says, I know he's little yet. Give him a try. Just give him a try. See how he does. all right, if your grandmother thinks we should try it, we'll give it a try. So he takes them off to the garden and they're doing their gardening. And he hands them a bucket. And he says, here's a bucket. Go over to the river over there and fetch some good water to feed to my plants, make them grow big and strong. He's like, okay. So he runs over to the river with his bucket, and the river flows this way, and he scoops the bucket up with water, and he's running back. It's sloshing all over. He's all excited. He's got the water, and his grandfather's looking at him, and he's looking really stern, and he's looking really upset, really disapproving. He's like, here's the water, Grandpa. And he's like, put that back where you found it. He's like, but you asked me for the water. He said, put that back where you got it from. And he's like, but grandfather, and you put it back right now. And so he doesn't know what he's done wrong. He turns around and he goes back to the river and he pours it back in. And he comes back and his head is hanging down and he just doesn't understand what he did wrong. And he thought he did the right thing. His grandfather says, now take the bucket back to the river and collect me some good water to feed to my plants. He's like, but grandfather, I just brought you the water. He's like, no. Go fetch me some good water. Go on. But no, go on. Go fetch the water. He's like, okay. So he goes back to the river and the river flows like this and he scoops the water up and he brings it back. And again, his grandfather's looking at him real stern, real disappointing, shaking his head. No, that's not right. Go put it back. You put that back. And I'm going to save you how many trips this was, because it was a lot, back and forth. He did not save me from the trips. I heard every single one, right? So eventually he's like, grandfather, I don't understand. And he's like, go fetch me some good water to feed to my plants. And so he goes back to the river and he doesn't realize that his grandfather has followed him back. Now he's right behind him. He pours the water back in. He gives a big sigh because he's obviously failing miserably at helping his grandfather today. And he turns around and he looks at his grandfather who is looking at him and he says, show me how you collect the water. And the river flows like this and he scoops the water up. He says, no, that's bad water. He goes, turn the bucket around. The river flows like this and he scoops it this way. And he says, that's going to be good water for my plants. And he was like, what? Grandfather, that is the same water. He said, no, it's not the same water. It is not the same at all. So there you have it. And that was the end of the story. And I'm sitting there going, what? I'm like, that was awful. Why would your grandfather do that to you?
Right.
And so I'm sitting there going, what? Why would he do that to you? And he's like, well, you get it, right? I go, no, I don't. He's like, okay, well, have you ever swam in the river? I'm like, yeah. He goes, then you know what I mean. I'm like, no, I don't. And he's like, okay, so you swam in the river. Did you ever swim against the current? And I said, yeah. He goes, how far did you get? I go, not very far at all. He's like, there, now you get it. I'm like, no, I don't get it. And he's like, okay. He's like, when you turn around and go with the natural flow, everything just is the way it's supposed to be. But when you are fighting just to stay where you already are, you know you're going the wrong way. Or you're looking at it from the wrong way. And that just hit me. Like, but my awareness was wide open because I'm like, what does this even mean? And because it was wide open like that, when he hit me with the meaning and then how it applied to me personally, that just blew me up. Like, I was like, wow, that was like, that story changed my life. It changed my life. Whenever I'm like, oh gosh, this sucks, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm going the wrong way, or I'm looking at it the wrong way, right? Mm-hmm. Whenever I go, gosh, this sucks, but, I remember that story and it changed my life. But the other moral of that story is, from the perspective where I came to, is that I learned how you can create that openness in people by creating that question. So their mind is open to receive when you smack them with what it means. And it literally is like getting smacked.
Right.
You're like,
Right.
whoa, I couldn't even block that one. You know how you block things and you're like, oh, I don't want to know that. No, I used to do that. Oh no, I don't want to know that. No, I'm not wrong. But I was wrong. So, but I mean, that's one of the ways you can open up other people's awareness. So I got to tell you, I was telling Mary earlier today. She asked me if a white lion ever meant anything to in the native culture, and I said, "Well, we don't have lions here, so no."
It's a good answer. It's a good answer.
It's true though. It's funny because when people are trying to get the first speakers of Ojibwe to translate words of things that like zebra, there is no traditional word for zebra because there were no zebras here. That was something that they
Right.
just didn't know about. So they'd have to make up a new word to describe what a zebra is. It's not a traditional word. It's a new word because they didn't know that before. But so this was years ago before my awakening. It was shortly before my awakening. And at that time, I would dye my hair platinum blonde and I was skinny and just I looked like a Barbie doll. As a matter of fact, everybody called me Barbie Jen because I look like a Barbie doll. Anyway, so and I loved that. I loved that because as a little girl, I had Barbies, and of course, you want to look like the Barbie, right? So I did.
Right.
Anyway, so I was a massage therapist, and back then people just didn't schedule 2-hour appointments. They commonly do it now, but not then, not back then. We're talking a long time ago. I hate to say that I was in my 30s and that was a long time ago, but it was a long time ago. It was more than 20 years ago. So anyway, this lady called and she scheduled to see me for a 2-hour massage, which I thought was really what? Nobody had ever done that before. I thought it was just bizarre. And she told me that she was where she was coming from. And it was a really far away in North Dakota, like really far. And I thought, this is just really odd. She made a really long appointment. She's coming really far to see me. And I just thought it was very odd. And she had a native accent on the phone. So I was just like, this is weird. So she walks in the door and I'm standing there and with my platinum blonde hair, and nobody ever looked at me and said, that's an Indian girl right there. No, they didn't see that ever. I was a Barbie Jen. Like, that's what they saw when they looked at me. She looked at me and she says, oh, look at you. Aren't you the Indian princess? And I was like, what? What? And she walks over, she puts her hands on my shoulders right here and she squeezes me and she said, oh, sweetie, you may look white on the outside, but I can see who you really are. You're the Indian princess. You're as dark as me on the inside. And I can see who you really are. And I was like, okay, well, I am part native. But nobody usually can see that, right? When they were looking at me, especially then with my blonde hair. So
Right.
for that entire time that she was with me for her 2-hour session, she told me all about me. And it was the weirdest thing that had happened to me to date in my life at that point. And she started talking to me about me, things that she couldn't have known. She said things like, your sister, who's not really your sister, but she's your sister. How is she your sister and not your sister? The one who lives with you. How is she your sister and not your sister? I said, she's my cousin, but we lived together when we were kids. She goes, your sister, but not your sister. And she said, she's gone right now. She's away visiting her sister, who's also your sister, but not your sister. She's visiting her and she's going to be late coming back, like 3 weeks, but she's coming back. She was, in fact, late 3 weeks. that it hadn't even happened yet. And she said, well, she's coming back. And she said, she's sick. I said, I know. She said, she has cancer. I said, yeah, she does. Now, this is weirding me out because this lady is just bam, 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 bam. And she's nonstop talking the whole time. And she's just throwing this stuff at me. And she's right on. She's spot on. And she started telling me where I should go. And I'm really bad. Like, this is my thing. I'm directionally challenged, number one. Number two, if somebody starts telling me directions to get somewhere, it's like I go, la, 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 la. It's not there. It does not stay there. I cannot fathom directions. That is not my learning. Give me a GPS, write it down, something, but do not tell me directions. It just goes, la, 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 la. It's not there. That is my Achilles heel right there. That's where you get me. Don't give me directions on how to get there, because that just doesn't. No. She starts giving me directions. She's like, and all I remembered from it was you go north, really north, and I realized that she was directing me to my reservation, where my family comes from, which I had not really been to very much in my life, except to our family farm, which was really on the edge, farther away from where she was saying to go. Mm-hmm. And my mom did not raise me there because I was too light. She raised me at the reservations to the south of that, where there was more light-skinned people. But my mom always said it was dangerous for me to go up there. I was too light. That's what my mom felt. And she, back when I was a little kid, she was probably right. Things have changed since then. But I mean, they have a really high blood quantum on my reservation, where most people are very dark. I did not fit in. So, this Native woman who came to me from really far away in North Dakota, far from the reservation she's telling me to go to. All I remembered was that she was Ojibwe, same as me, but she wasn't with her people. She wasn't living with her people. She was on a different reservation, I thought, than where she should be at. I just thought she was where she shouldn't be. And she told me all these things about where to go for healing. And she kept saying, you need to go there. Jen, you need to go there. And it was going right over my head. I mean, it didn't stick, right? And she told me things about myself that nobody knew. Some things I didn't even know. For instance, she said, you really like Mike. Ooh, you like Mike a lot. And I was like, no, I don't. And she goes, no, you really like him. You really do. And I was just like, I have a client named Mike. I like him just fine. But other than that, no, and she goes, honey, you call him by a different name, but his real name is Mike. Weird. That night I went over to see my boyfriend. He was cooking dinner for me at his apartment. And I go over and I'm weirded out by this lady. And I'm telling him, I had this weird lady today. And I started telling him some of the things that she said. And then I said, she told me that I really like Mike, that I really, really like him a lot. And she was insistent that I liked Mike. And I told her that's not true. I don't even know. I have a client named Mike. I like him just fine, but nothing like you're talking. And he just looked at me like, and I go, what? He goes, hang on. And he goes in his room for a moment. He comes back out with his high school yearbook to show me his picture and that his real name is Mike. And he didn't like that. So he goes by his middle name, which was Troy. So I thought his name was Troy, but his real name was Mike. I didn't even know that. I mean, really freaky stuff.
But she knew that.
She knew that. Yeah. Well, if I had known that was him, I probably wouldn't have said. She said, I really, really, really like him. I probably wouldn't have said that to him. Right? So,
right.
I mean, she really threw me for some loops. And one of the things she said was, why do you have a tiger? You have a tiger. Why do you have a tiger? We don't even have those here. Why do you have one? And I didn't know what she was talking about, but she said that I had a tiger with me and it had a collar on it even, and it was like my pet. and that it was always with me, this tiger. And she couldn't figure out why I would have one because we don't even have those here. But I had a spirit tiger with me all the time. I had a collar. It was mine. So she kept saying, "What's with your tiger? What's with your tiger?" You know? And so that was what I was reminded of when Mary asked me about the white lions, because it really threw her for a loop that I had a tiger. So, we don't even have those here. She didn't even know how to fathom what that could mean because we don't even have those here. So, but you know, she was in a way, she, you know, hindsight, looking back on her, she was part of me. She was soul connected to me. And part of me wonders if she was even alive, because some of the things that happened with her were really bizarre. And I'm pretty sure if she was alive, she's passed away by now, because this was 20 some years ago. But she had stab wounds in her back that when I uncovered her back, I was like, oh my God. And what happened to you? And like, lots of stab wounds, 15. And I said, what happened to you? And she started to cry, and she said, my son stabbed me in the back 15 times. And she started to cry and just wailing. And like, she was right back in that moment. And, you know, I just comforted her, and I didn't know what to do. That was just, that in itself was very bizarre. But then I was like, how did she even live through? I mean, it was bad. So, you know, I was, in hindsight, I wondered if she was even a live person, or was she a spirit, you know, that came to me. Like, it, you know, I don't even know the answer to that question, except years later, I had wished that I had remembered her name or kept her number or something, because when I started going through my awakening, I wanted to talk to her. I wanted to talk to her. And they had a client in my office one night, and he was from somewhere in North Dakota. And as he was leaving, he was halfway out the door, and out of my mouth flew, I'm looking for a Native woman in this area of North Dakota. She has 15 stab wounds in her back given to her by her son. You know her. What's her name? And he went, because he didn't know her. That just flew out of my mouth. You know her. What's her name? And he's like, I don't want any trouble. That's what he said. I don't want any trouble. I said, there's no trouble. And he was really sure that there was trouble, because I don't know, but he wasn't Native either. Like, apparently I felt like he knew that she was special. And he didn't want any trouble. But he gave me a name, and it wasn't the right. He gave me a different name than what was hers. I called the lady whose name he gave me, and she wasn't even Native. So, yeah, he was scared to tell me who she was. He didn't want to get in trouble or whatever. I don't know. But again, that was a long, long time ago too. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it was very, very interesting. But, you know, in hindsight, I see that she was soul connected to me, that she came to me on purpose. Mm-hmm. To start my process of awakening. She did that. Her energy started something in me, because it started shortly after she left, that I started on this journey of awakening. And, you know, I'd always been psychic. I'd always had that, but I was fighting it every step of the way. I didn't want it. I was hiding it. And it wasn't that much longer that I let it open up and, let it develop into what it was meant to be. And I accepted myself for who I really am, and I let my hair color go back to my natural color.
And it looks wonderful.
And I love thank you. I'm like, this is, you know, you can look at pictures of me from being a kid. This is my hair color, you know? So, I love my hair color, and people are like, you should color your hair. And I'm like, I love my color. This is me. This is who I am. I love me. And that's a big deal because I did not love me most of my life. I did not. You know, I think that's very true for most women. Or uh-oh, you guys are clicking in and out. Am I freezing up?
Yeah, you
Can
froze
you
a
hear me
little
okay?
bit. You kind of lagged, and then you came
Okay.
back.
You're good.
So I think
Okay,
it's
I'm
good
back.
now.
Maybe that's not what I
Yeah.
was. Okay. Okay. So, I mean, that was just a really interesting thing, and I know that there was recently something that I can't remember which one of you, and maybe you both posted it, about the souls. What was the question that you had about the souls?
Oh, and I was going to ask you that question. You are a psychic. Well, I will keep my experience short. I had someone come in that was so connected to me, just like you're talking about that woman. And it was literally such a strong connection. I can't even explain it, but she was asking questions that I would have asked myself. And so I really felt like I almost felt like it was me on a parallel universe, but the younger version of me, the past me, coming in to get information. And I've had same experiences with older women who I could have swore, because they have my name, is what it is. That the older woman had my name. So that was the post, is do we really have that kind of soul connection? Yeah, it's a rabbit hole. Like, are we really connecting with our soul on so many different levels? And maybe it was you
So I
that
started,
we're connecting with.
yes, and I believe that's 100% true. So I started seeing souls, or became aware that I was seeing souls in 2007. And prior to that, I just thought they might be related because they look so much alike. But it just started getting weirder and weirder and weirder, to the point where I was like, I don't think this is really what people look like. Um, this is really, really freaking me out. But I had to figure out what it meant, because I was seeing people that looked just like the other people I already knew, exactly like them. Maybe they were a little bit older or a little bit younger, but it was them. And did they really look like that physically? Or I think I maybe froze up there for a second. So I was wondering if they really looked like that physically, or if I was just seeing something else, because they looked just like each other. And I really didn't know what it was for a while. And at that time, I was going through my spiritual awakening, and my native elder told me that I wasn't supposed to talk to other psychics. I wasn't supposed to go to the Holistic Expo and deal with the people that were doing that kind of stuff. He told me to stay away from them. And I'm like, but why? I wanted to go be with those people. There was a Holistic Expo coming to my town. I'm like, I'm going to go. I'm going to feel what that room feels like. I bet you it's just amazing. And I was so excited to go be with those people. He's like, no, you're not going there. You can't go there. I'm like, why not? Why? And he goes, stay away from them. Stay away from them. You cannot talk to others like that. You just need to stay away from them. I said, but why? He goes, you can, because I was teaching Reiki. He goes, you can talk to people that you teach. That's fine. But stay away from the others. I said, but why? And he says, because they're not ready for you and you are not ready for them. And I just didn't understand, but that was a rule, and that was a solid rule. And I listened for the most of the time. But I did go to the Holistic Expo right at the end, and I thought, well, I'm just going to go in. I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm just going to go sit there, and I'm just going to feel the room, because I thought everybody was going to be like me. And I thought the energy of that was going to be just fantastic. So I go in there and I'm walking around and I'm looking at people, and it doesn't feel like me at all. I was so confused. But it didn't feel like I thought it was going to feel, and I was disappointed. And then I was walking up and down the aisles of all the booths, and I kind of peeked around the corner of this one, and I jumped back, and I'm like, ooh, that guy is interesting. And I looked again, and he had an energy to him that I found very fascinating. And he saw me peeking at him. He's like, "Hey, come here." I'm like, "Oh boy, I'm not going to talk to him. I'm not supposed to talk to him."
I'm not allowed to talk to you.
He's like, "Hey, come here." And he starts talking to me, and I'm listening, and I'm thinking to myself, "I'm not supposed to be talking to you." And then he said, "Oh, wait, come here." And he brings me out into the middle of the row. And he says, "I'm going to introduce you to your sister."
Ooh.
And here comes this girl down the aisle, very light-skinned looking, very excited. Hi, you know. And he says to her, "Hey, let me introduce you to your sister." And she's just like, "Hmm?" And we're both looking at each other going, "Who are you?" You know? And he says, "Exchange numbers. You know, this is your sister." So we did. And that was my interaction with him. But I ended up connecting with her, and she became my sister. She was from the Turtle Mountain Reservation in North Dakota. She was light-skinned like me, but she was very into her native culture, just as I was getting into mine. And we went through that together, and it was a beautiful relationship. And I miss her dearly. She passed away in 2017.
I'm sorry.
But she was definitely my sister. But on a soul level too. So I'm pretty sure what he saw when he looked at us was the same person, just like I see souls, right? So because my native elder told me that I couldn't talk to others, I didn't usually do that at all. And then one day his son told me that I was just like his mother. And then his other son told me, "You're just like my mom." Jeez, you're just like my mom. I'm like, "Well, your brother said that too. Who's your mom?" Now I'm cute because they kept saying, "Oh, you're just like my mom." And I'm like, "Really? What's your mom like?" "Well, she's a psychic." I'm like, "She is? Well, who is she?" And so they gave me her name, and I asked my elder if I could talk to her because, you know, that was his ex-wife. He's like, "Yeah, you can talk to her." So I emailed her, and I told her who I was, and we started having an email conversation that went on for a long time. And she was a high-level psychic. Her name is Doriel Payton, and she was, I mean, the people that she ran with were like Jane Roberts. That was what, like, her best friend, Jane Roberts. You know, her she channeled the Seth material, all the Seth material Seth speaks, which I don't read books. I've never been a book reader. I've wanted to read books so badly because I'm like, there are answers in here. I want them, but I couldn't focus on it. It just wasn't going to happen. And it was so frustrating to me. But now I'm very, very thankful for that. And the reason I'm thankful for that is because everything I know, I experienced it myself. And I figured it out. And I named it whatever I thought it should be named. And when I talked with Dory, I told her everything. I emailed her all of my experiences, and I told her, this is what happened. This is what I think it was. This is what I named it. Can you tell me if it already has a name and what that is so that I can adjust my vocabulary to what other people call it? And she did that for me. Because I was so far removed from what everybody else was saying and doing and knowing and thinking, that whatever I was getting and whatever was coming through for me, that was real. And that was not somebody else's interpretation. And it wasn't somebody else's saying, this is what was in the book. Because you know what happens if you learn things from a book? Somebody writes it down. All these people read it. Then they write their own book and they include it in their book. And it's in this book and it's in that book. And it's in that book. But they all got it from the same place. What if it wasn't right? And that happened in massage therapy school. There was one thing that that was like a rule. It was like law in massage therapy. The contraindications for massage therapy, what you do not do so you don't hurt somebody, right? So if one of the contraindications was if they have high blood pressure, you do not push up the legs towards the core because you could increase their blood pressure and give them a heart attack. That was a contraindication. You did not do it, you could kill somebody. That was what they taught us. 20 years later, I'm at a continuing ed conference and they said, "Who believes this?" Everybody raised their hand. That's a contraindication. That is like fact. That's law. You do not do it. You don't want to kill somebody on your table, right? That's something we paid attention to, right? And the teacher said, "It's not true." We're like, "What? It's not true. You can look it up. It's been disproven. That's not even true. Where did that information come from? Somebody thought it was true. They wrote it in a book. All these other people read the book. They wrote it in their books. Now it was everywhere. It is just fact. And nobody ever knew that it wasn't based in fact at all." And so that's a really good example of why it's good that I could never read a book, right?
Mhm.
Whatever I know, I experienced it myself. And if it's not correct, it's because I interpreted it wrong, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so when I was talking to Dory and I was telling her all of my things, all of those emails, I still have all of them. And I said, "This is what happened." And I would just describe everything that happened. This is what I think it meant. And this is what I named it. And she asked me, because I started talking to her about the souls. And I said, I think I'm seeing souls instead of bodies. They look just like each other. And I've discovered that if I have one in front of me and I hold the intention of helping the other one, if I help this one, and hold that intention, it causes a big change in the next one immediately. It does work. They are connected. They are the same. They're in different bodies, but if I hold that intention, it makes a change in the other one too. Because I would do experiments on that over and over and over again just to see if it was right. And it was always right. Right. And I said, "So I'm seeing souls. And I don't really understand what that means, except for I think a soul is a really, really big thing." And I called it a whole soul. And I said that it breaks itself into little tiny pieces, and I was calling them soul slivers. And they're just tiny little pieces of that being that is a soul that's so wise and powerful. And it wants to become more than it is. So it has to become less than in order to have new experiences, to grow into something more. It's too wise to make the mistakes or put itself into situations to have these experiences that would create more compassion, that would create that understanding. So it has to become less than it is. It breaks itself into these little pieces, and these little pieces of slivers of soul go into different bodies all at once. In the now,
Wow.
in the future, in the past, it's all right now to that soul. There's no time. It's just right now, but it's all happening. And so what people think of as past lives are really just another piece of your soul that is in another body in another time. And we have those other selves, those other pieces of our own soul are living in bodies all around the world right now. And when you see that, I sit in an airport. It's really fun. I'm like, "Hello, me." There's me walking by right over there, and there I am over there. And it's kind of fun to see myself everywhere.
Wonderful.
But
Yeah.
and then if I go and help myself, if I see me and another person, I'm more apt to go help that person, really, because that's only good. It's good for all of us.
Right.
I also realized that the people who are closest to me, if they are my soul slivers that are on a higher path to some degree, if I surround myself with them, we are stronger. We know more. we are more powerful when we are together because we're little pieces of the same soul. But when we're together and we're into that oneness, we are more than we are separately. If that
Yes.
makes sense.
It that's mind-blowing powerful, all rolled into one. Like holy shit. That this is all the time that we have. We're gonna have to have you on again. Because you have too much stuff. I could listen forever. I'm gonna get a storybook and bring it to you and have you read it to me. Just so you know.
Well, I just want to say that what Dory said to me when I started telling her about souls, she said, "Are you channeling Seth?" I said, "What?" And she said, "Are you channeling Seth?" And I said, "Who is Seth?" And she's like, "How do you know this stuff?" I said, "I just figured it out because this is what I'm experiencing." And she's like, "But this sounds like Seth." And again, I don't read books. I still have not read the Seth books, even though she told me that I'm talking about all the things that Seth talked about. Apparently, we talk about the same things. And I would love to hear what he all talked about. But she did tell me that Seth called it the oversoul. The whole soul is called the oversoul. And that he described very much the same thing. And so did Edgar Casey. So that was cool. That was like a confirmation. But again, this came from my own experience and my own figuring out. And I wasn't channeling anybody. So
That's amazing.
So yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
We'll see everybody next time.
Thank you, Jen. Love you, everybody.
Love you. Love you.
Bye.